Well, hello there. It's really good to see you again. Always nice to have you back for another video. And today I'm going to be reviewing a coach. And this is actually one that's been on my radar for quite some time. It's been supplied as a review sample from Oxford Rail, and it's one of their new Mark IIIs. So I'm really looking forward to taking a look at this. So come with me and let's take a closer look. So here we are. This is one of the Oxford Rail Mark III coaches supplied by Oxford Rail for review. And actually the first thing that strikes me is just how vibrant and eye-catching this Intercity livery is. And I'm sure they've been watching my videos and know that Intercity is one of my favourite liveries of the sort of later BR period. So here it is, and so we've got code OR763RM002, and this is the Mark III coach. It's an FO, which is first open in BR Intercity Swallow livery. So it's perfect, absolutely perfect for me. I love this livery. So it's not the first livery that these coaches actually wore in service. They started out in blue and grey, and this is probably one of the liveries that they started to move on into as British Rail went into that kind of sectorisation period. Now it's interesting, just before I go any further, we do actually get some detail pieces here in the box, and there's actually some instructions as well, which is always useful. So this is for the intercoach pipework, and it tells you exactly where to put them, so it's always handy to have a guide, because I said before, sometimes you get these detailing pieces and you're none the wiser where they go, but that is actually really helpful. It is a really long coach, and it's something that Zoe pointed out that, you know, it dwarfs even my regular coaches. Now, British Rail didn't rest on their laurels after they introduced the Mark Is. The Mark IIs followed them, and of course then the Mark IIIs. And these were principally designed for going with the HST, or at least certain versions were. And this, I believe, is the loco-hauled version. So these would have worked with things like Class 47s on intercity workings, and actually testament to how successful they were. An awful lot of these coaches are still with us, just clinging on, and they've had an awful lot of different liveries over the years, so it's actually a really good choice by Oxford Rail to produce these in model form, because there's an awful lot of variety and they suit a great many periods from, I guess, late 1970s right through to the present time. You can't really say so much in frontline use about any other type of coach. I know that some of the Mark Is and Mark IIs are clinging on with people like West Coast Rail, but really in terms of frontline stock, the Mark III is probably about as successful as they get. Now, the Mark III has appeared in model form before now, and indeed other manufacturers do make some of the different variants, but I believe Oxford Rail is the only manufacturer making this particular variant. And it's really interesting. I don't have a Hornby model to compare to this, but it is one that I would like to do at some point. But really, to look at this, I have to say my first impression is incredibly favourable. It looks just like the coaches that you still see every day, and in fact I do vaguely remember this livery on them, so it is nicely applied. We've got the it's kind of like a darker, almost dirty grey at the bottom. Then we have the red stripe, and that's lovely and glossy actually. The vibrancy is really striking me. Normally I say that full gloss is something that probably should be avoided in model form, but actually on this coach, that gloss red and this glossy yellow as well as the first coach section band on there, it really stands out. I like it. And then we've got the thin layer of white in there, and this sort of dark grey around the windows, and it's all really sharply produced, and it's perfectly level. as it should be. With a lot of these kind of slab-sided coaches, it'd be very easy for something to be ever slightly out of line and out of place, and it would really show up. But on this, it seems that Oxford Rail have got it absolutely crack on. They've also got the very characteristic tumble home at the bottom, and one of the things that always strikes me when you see these coaches on the main line, on the doors, they've got this kind of fade into the ends, which gives it a very distinctive shape. And that, for me, has been replicated really, really well on these coaches, because I suppose that's one of the signature areas, certainly in my mind, my memories of seeing these coaches, that always stood out to me, and it seems to be there perfectly. The glazing itself is flush glazed, it's really nicely done, and we've also got this printing as well on the windows for first class, and the no smoking lozenges as well. So it's all there and it's all nicely done. One of the interesting things that I've just spotted is that it does have a full interior in there. It's a little difficult to see them through the windows because they're actually slightly darkened, but it is in there. And it is certainly something that, in terms of improving this coach, I would suggest maybe consider fitting something like a lighting bar in here, and that will allow you to add people in there, and I think it would just make a great coach even greater. We've got the big numeral 1 there for first class. Looking at, I think these, if my memory serves me right, because I don't pay a huge amount of attention to modern coaching stock, I think those are the lights that come on when the doors are unlocked. I could be wrong on that. They are just tempo printed on, but are actually really nicely done. We've also got other bits of tempo printed detail, and I'm just looking there. Again, I have to take my glasses off. I'm not sure whether there's any text on that. It is very, very fine. If there is, it'd be interesting to see if that's readable. But it is very nicely done, even down to the recessed handrails as well, which are accurately picked out in the black. And the red actually there of the band goes behind the black. And it's nice to see that kind of attention to detail, that, parts are painted as part of the assembly process to make sure that you have this really crisp demarcation. Looking down across the coach, we've got this very characteristic, almost like this block underneath, and that is true to the prototype. And again, it's something that could have been very slab-sided, very bland and boring, but Oxford Rail have got all of the relief of these different boxes and stuff absolutely perfectly done. We've even got the louvres there on the vents, and I'm looking in there. Are they separately applied? It's actually really hard to tell whether they are separately applied or not. And I guess if I can't tell, that means they're really well done, whether they are separately applied or not. There's also an awful lot more tempo printing on here, and again, really sharply done. I'm looking there, there's just a very sharp finish to these letters, and I think there's some lettering there again. Love to see that under very close magnification. It's just so crisp and sharp, as it should be, but it would be an area that would be easy to mess up, and Oxford Rail have avoided that pitfall. We've got the coach number there, 10201, again, sharply on there. The other end of the coach, again, that characteristic body shape where it kind of wedges away over the door is accurately reproduced. It is really, really nice. I'm looking there. It is so sharp between those different colours. Absolutely no bleed across whatsoever. Turning to the end of the coaches, again, there's a lot of detail on here. The actual buffers themselves, they are metal buffers. They're just pushed in there. They don't appear to be sprung, but they've got that characteristic, almost like mushroomed front face. That is really nice to see. And we've got a lot of detail here with the coach data panels, all on there. I can't actually read them with my actual naked eyes, but they are superbly reproduced. And actually, I suspect that under magnification, they're going to look absolutely fine. We've even got glazing as well in the doors that go in the end there. Normally, when these are running in a train, these would be open, but they're modelled here in the shut position, which actually is the perfect way to do it, because the only time you'd see this in model form is if there's not a coach coupled next to it. So actually, it's very, very logically done. One of the things I've noticed is it's coded RFM at the ends of the coach, and my gut feeling is that it's not a first open, it's actually something slightly different. The giveaway being that the seating's only at one end. It's something to do with being a buffet car, so I suspect that the label on the box is not quite right when it bills it as being an FO, but I could be wrong on that. I'm not an expert on Mark III's, but I'm sure somebody will put me right. The roof on this, it's got the characteristic lengthways ribs, and again, these seem nicely done. I'm suspecting that they're slightly bolder than perhaps the real coaches would be, but again, we've talked about this with the Mark 1s from both Bachmann and Hornby, that sometimes in model form, it's prudent to make some changes that make it look better as a model, but aren't necessarily completely accurate to the prototype. It's just one of those quirks of making something miniature, what your brain expects. And actually, looking at this, I'm seeing exactly what I'm expecting to see. So whatever it is they've done it absolutely right. We've got all these separately applied. I think, yeah, they do appear to be separately applied bits of roof detail. Nicely done. Very firmly on there. We're not running the risk of bits and pieces raining down. We've also got these, I'm guessing that they're handrails, but they are separately applied wire handrails, because you can actually see the light underneath. If I just rotate that, hopefully you'll be able to see that you can see underneath that loop of wire. And again, they're really, really well on there, so no risk of them coming off. Same on the other end. And again, the coach is not symmetrical, it's accurately represented in that way. So really nicely done. And I suspect that these roofs are bespoke to the different types of coach, so they are all accurate. This on the box, it says it's an FO, but they do also do a variety of different coaches, enough that you can make up a full rake. And I would expect that they've done them all exactly as per the prototype. Looking to the underside, we've got these the characteristic bogies. I'm not actually sure what type of bogies they are. Somebody's probably going to tell me. I'm more familiar with the ones that go underneath Mark 1 and Mark 2 coaches, and the Big 4 coaches and before. So I'm not sure what designation these bogies have, but certainly these really do look the part. And one of the areas that I'm particularly impressed by is if you look there, the front faces on the wheels have the kind of brake pads. These have a kind of disc on the face of the wheels that the brakes act on. And that is actually the nicest rendition of those that I've ever seen. There does appear to be a slight dusting over with a white colour, which has gone into the holes and the little bands, and it really accentuates that detail. And it's that attention to detail which I really like about these. These bogies really do look nice. They're held on by a single screw, so if you want to change them for whatever reason or take them off, that is really, really easy to do. The couplings are slimline tension lock couplings applied in a NEM pocket, and again it has the spring-loaded self-centering mechanism that allows a closer coupling on the straights and then opens out depending on how tight a corner these go round. And it does also mean that you're not running the risk of the couplings pulling themselves apart on tighter curves, which is probably very important given the length of this coach. The underside of the gubbins, I'm going to call it for want of a better technical word, is completely flat, but you're not going to see it. So actually, hats off to Oxford Rail. Don't bother putting detail on something that you're never going to see to keep the cost down. So yes, please, can we have more of that? Because, Oxford Rail are the masters at getting value for money, and it's nice to see very clever ways of keeping this within budget. We have separately applied footboards on each of the doors, nicely done, and then steps underneath. And again, these are pretty well applied, so they are a little bit springy. They're taking a bit of punishment. And then we've got the area which is quite characteristic of the Mark IIIs. All of these multiple working wires, things like that, ETH, they're all on there. They come factory fitted. So other than that small pack of detail which I showed you at the start, you really don't need to bother with anything. And even then, that extra detail is something that, you know, if you really, really want it, it's there. If you don't really feel bothered about it, I wouldn't worry too much. Overall, it's a coach which I've kind of turned my eye away from over the years. I always feel of them as being a bit too modern for me, but looking at this coach, I'm finding myself drawn to wanting more. And that is the sign of a good coach. Oxford Rail, this is amazing as your first forage into coaching rolling stock. Can I recommend this? Yes, certainly I can. There's not really anything to fault for me on this. I think they've got it just about right. So I'm going to give it a good solid 9.9 out of 10. And it is a coach that I guess if I hadn't have been sent a review copy, I wouldn't have actively sought out. But now I've had a chance to review it, will I buy more? Yeah, I think I will. Well, I hope that's been really informative to you. Don't forget to like this video, share it too, and also subscribe to the channel, and you'll be the first to know about new videos as and when they go up. But until next time, this is me, Jenny Kirk, saying bye for now. Today's video has been brought to you in part thanks to the generous donation of my fans on Patreon. And a huge thanks goes out to Anthony Kidson, Michael Churchwood, Alec Ralph, Anthony Hunt, William Wade, Wayne Johns, Offshore Alan, oorail.co.uk and Tepic. Today's video has been brought to you by my books, Bringing Home the Stars, Twinkle Little Star, and also you can get the complete comic collections of All Over the House, Books 1, Books 2, and also the wacky zany Life of Knobty Mouse. Thanks and catch you later.